There are two rules for agents in a principal-agent relationship. The first one is utmost faith in all the runs. And the second one, don't forget the rule number 1. Hi, this is Ritika. We are doing reading 27 of Corporate Issuers, Introduction to Corporate Governance and Other ESG Considerations.
This is LOSC. This LOS requires us to describe principal, agent and other relationships in corporate governance and the conflicts that may arise in these relationships. So let us begin. What is the meaning of principal-agent relationship? The principal-agent relationship is a relationship created due to arrangement between the two parties where one party legally appoints the other to act on its behalf. Here, the principal hires an agent to act on its behalf. The agent is expected to act in the best interest of the principal, and there should be no conflict of interest in carrying out the act. We will discuss some of the important examples of principal-agent relationship in the coming slides. The first one is between shareholders and managers or directors. So how is there a principal-agent relationship between the shareholder and the managers? The shareholders are the owners of the company who appoint the managers or the directors to work on their behalf in managing the affairs of the companies. Here, the shareholders are the principals who appoint the managers or directors as their agents. The agents, that is the managers or the directors, are expected to work in the best interest of the company and the shareholders. However, they may sometimes seek to maximize their personal benefits to the detriment of the shareholders. Some of the potential problems that may arise in principal-agent relationship between shareholders and managers are: A. Due to risk tolerance. The management may be more risk averse, thus restricting the amount of returns to the shareholders in order to protect their positions. B. Due to information asymmetry. It may at times be difficult for shareholders to judge the soundness of strategic decisions by directors because of maybe a lack of information or a clear understanding of information available to them. C. The board composition. The board of directors may be comprised of too many insiders, such as executive directors. This may result in unfair representation of shareholders in the decision-making process. Now, the next category of principal-agent relationship is between controlling and minority shareholders. Who are the controlling shareholders? Controlling shareholders are those shareholders that own more than 50% of the company's shares and control the composition of board of directors and thus the affairs of the company. And who are minority shareholders? Minority shareholders, on the other hand, are those shareholders who own less than a half of the company's shares and do not have control over the affairs of the company. And how is there a principal-agent relationship between these two? There exists a principal-agent relationship between the controlling and minority shareholders by the virtue of the ability of the controlling shareholders to control the affairs of the company on the behalf of the minority. Generally, the opinions of minority shareholders are outweighed by the influence of controlling shareholders. Thus, a few issues that could be a cause of conflict between the principal-agent relationships between these two parties are: A. Related party transactions. The controlling shareholders may have an interest in the transactions between the company and the third-party suppliers. Some of these third-party suppliers may be related party for the controlling shareholders, which may be detrimental to the interests of the company and the minority shareholders. Then the second reason for conflict could be dual class shares. There are two classes of shares, that is voting shares, typically belonging to the management, and non-voting shares. Voting shareholders may be biased in their decisions, creating a conflict of interest. The next principal agent relationship is between managers and the board of directors. And how does this work? The managers are responsible for the actual affairs of the company. And what about the board of directors? The board of directors rely on the information provided by the managers. So where's the conflict? Board of directors oversight can be compromised if management limits the information provided to them, especially to the non-executive directors. And next we have shareholders and the creditors. An important thing to note about the creditors is that the creditors usually have no control over the affairs of the company. It is usually controlled by the shareholders. So where does the conflict arise? The main reasons for conflict between the shareholders and creditors are: A. The shareholders prefer higher returns even if it means greater potential risk, whereas creditors prefer stable performance and lower risk activities. B. The presence of debt or creditors in the capital structure may either add to the leverage effects or lower the levels of shareholders' payout, and the latter would not be preferred by the shareholders. Then we have other category of stakeholders. And there is a conflict of interest between other stakeholders as well. These can be between A. The customers versus creditors. There's a continuous conflict in respect of cutting the costs and quality of goods and services provided to the customers. Cutting the cost may be detrimental to the interests of the customers, but it may at the same time also mean more profitability and better liquidity for the creditors. Then the next is the conflict of interests between customers and suppliers. There's a conflict with regards to the lenient credit terms to the customers versus the timely payments to the suppliers. Lenient credit terms may mean more sales, but exposes the creditors to liquidity risk at the same time. Then there is also a conflict between shareholders versus the government regulators. The shareholders face issues with respect to the costly regulation and tax minimization strategies. So while these shareholders might look for the ways to minimize the tax outflows, the idea may not excite the tax department so much. So this was LOSC. I suggest that you practice questions on this topic at procfa.com. And if there are any queries, you can contact us. Take care till we meet in another video.